Senior Moments, sponsored by the Empowering Seniors Group on News Talk KVNU, 102 FM and 610 AM.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Senior Moment Show. My name is Bryce Patton, here with the very, should I say spicy or happy? I don't know.
You want to change it up now? I'm not fabulous or wonderful.
You are, but you just have that look of just like joy and wonderfulness right now. So
yeah, it's the season. Good things are happening. Soup is great.
I was just gonna say, did you get your soup last night? Oh, my goodness. Okay, well, let's dive in. We have a lot to talk about with our guest today, who is part of our sponsorship group, the Empowering Seniors. But would you mind telling us all about that?
Absolutely. We are sponsored by the Empowering Seniors Group, and our guest is a member of that. It is a group of professionals like him that have gathered to bring information to seniors, their family members, caretakers, and all those wonderful people that listen to us every Saturday. If you would like to learn more about the Empowering Seniors Group, you can do so online at empoweringseniors.info, or you can email us at empoweringseniorscv@gmail.com, and the CV stands for Cache Valley. And lastly, if you have any questions for this, any questions about any of the shows, you can call me personally at 435-512-6406.
Oh, thank you for doing that. We have with us again Justin Wall from Wall Estate Solutions. Welcome back to the show.
Good to be back. Thanks for having me.
You know, we always dive into some pretty interesting things with law with you. I want to kind of go back and just what's the difference between a will and a trust?
Yeah, good question. So they're two instruments that are typically, will is always used for who gets what when you pass away. A trust can be used for a lot of different things, but we use it very often in an estate planning context because with a trust, we can keep everything out of probate. If I have a will, all I'm saying there is when I die, these assets go to these people, and you can write that up however you want to. But in order to do anything with it, I still have to take that will into the probate courts to get somebody appointed to be able to sign on any transfers, right? The law says if you own a piece of property and you're the title owner of the property, you're the only one legally that can sign a deed to transfer that property to somebody else. So if you pass away owning that property, even if you have a will that says it's going to go to my kids in equal shares, we still have to go to the court and ask somebody to ask the judge to appoint somebody to have authority to transfer that will or that deed. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, you just ramped me up for a good question because this is a thing that I always feel in my real estate career that people are unaware of. And different states have different laws in that aspect. There is a default way that title is conveyed in Utah, and it's called joint tenancy.
Yes.
Can you explain what joint tenancy is? And then maybe tenancy in common, which I believe Idaho is a state that does that.
Tenancy in common, community property. There's a lot of different ways to do it. What that deals with, typically we're talking about spouses, husband and wife. How do we own this property together, right? And, you know, when you're going along and both of you own the property during your lifetime, nobody really cares. When it really starts to matter is death, divorce, creditors, things of that nature. We have to figure out who owns what interest in the property. So if we have a piece of real estate and it's 100% owned by two people, well, what does that mean? Does that mean both of them own 100% of the property together? Or does that mean one of them owns 50% and the other one owns 50%? And that's what we're getting into with these different types of ownership structures. So when we're dealing with joint tenancy, usually that means the survivor gets right to the full amount of the property, right? This is the estate planning side of it, where if one spouse passes away, that spouse's share of that asset, that piece of real estate, that deed, will transfer to the surviving spouse outside of probate by operation of law effective on the moment of their death. That's joint tenancy. That's the default in Utah. Tenancy in common is a little different. When we're dealing with tenancy in common, we don't have right of survivorship as between the spouses, right? One spouse has a 50% interest, the other spouse has a 50% interest. That doesn't transfer to anyone by operation of law effective on your death. That's significant if we have a will. Because in a scenario where we have right of survivorship, if we have a will that says, hey, everything goes to one of our children or goes to a charity, well, if we have joint tenancy, that's going to go to the spouse and it's going to supersede the will because it never becomes part of their estate. It automatically goes to the other person. If we have tenancy in common, then their 50% interest does not go to the surviving spouse. And now we have a share that ends up in their estate and will follow the terms of their will.
So quick question there on, I mean, we've explained that Utah by default puts it into joint tenancy, but if somebody, because I've actually had that before where somebody went to title company and said, I would like my daughter to be on the title with me. And the title company then went ahead and put it into tenancy in common, whilst the owner actually intended it to be joint tenancy, so it would default to the daughter in the case of his death.
Yeah, very common scenario, actually. And I would say it's probably a misapplication of how they're trying to accomplish what they're trying to accomplish. Tenancy in common says, well, this child is now the owner, and they don't have any right of survivorship, so we still have to go through probate with a will if they have a will. Or if they don't have one, then we have to go through probate without a will, which is just as bad. But usually when people do that, it's for that exact intention. We just want to keep everything out of probate. We want it all to go to the kids, and we want it to go effective on our deaths. Well, if we do it with joint tenancy and it's to the children, the other thing to remember is all of the joint tenants are also current owners of the property. So if that child now goes through a divorce or a bankruptcy or a lawsuit, if there's somebody coming after their assets and they have to report what they own, well, now that child has to say, well, I own an interest, a share of my parents' property. And it's possible for the parents to lose a portion of the house that they're living in because they named one of their children on as a joint tenant with right of survivorship, right? Or as tenants in common, where they don't own that interest. Well, now the child just owns that interest outright, and that could still be taken away from them in that same kind of an action. So typically what we'll do in those cases, instead of going, let's go to the title company and write a deed that leaves it to the kids outside of probate, we can do what we call a beneficiary deed, which is a special type of deed that is allowed in Utah, though we don't see it very often, where we say, hey, we want this to transfer effective on our deaths to our children. And that's revocable, so if they need to sell the house, they can do that, and the beneficiary deed only takes effect if they still own that property effective on their death. Or an alternative, probably a better alternative, is to just put the house into a trust and then tell the trustee where those assets are to go after you pass away.
That sounds great. And it also brings me to the point where I have to say, in my mind, that legal stuff is always very complex. If someone had questions and wanted to sit down with you and explain what scenario they're trying to achieve, what's a good number to reach you?
Yeah, best number is my office number is 435-294-0346. That's 435-294-0346. Or you can reach out by email to justin@wallestate.law.
Perfect. We are coming up on our first break here, so let me mention our sponsor again, which is the Empowering Seniors Group. If you'd like to learn more about the Empowering Seniors Group, you can do so online at empoweringseniors.info, or you can email us at empoweringseniorscv@gmail.com, and the CV stands for Cache Valley. We're going to take a short break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
This is Mark Thurston with White Pine Funeral Services. The best time to plan is when you have time to plan. Having a pre-arranged funeral gives peace of mind for everyone involved. White Pine will customize your final wishes to fit your needs, from a traditional burial to cremation to a custom headstone. White Pine also accepts pre-arranged plans from other mortuaries, and we will absorb any transfer or revocation fees. No penalty to you. Visit whitepinefunerals.com or come and see us for more information.
White Pine Funeral Services, here when you need us most.
Picture this. Your family's locked in court, fighting over your home and your assets because there was no plan. Don't let probate decide your future. I'm attorney Justin Wall with Wall Estate Solutions. Stay in control with wills, trusts, and smart planning that keeps your family out of court and your wishes protected. Get peace of mind today. Visit wallestate.law or call 435-294-0346. That's 435-294-0346. Your legacy, your plan.
Are you tired of feeling unwell and not knowing why? At Next Level Health and Wellness, we hear you. We specialize in uncovering the root causes of your discomfort, whether it's gut health, hormone imbalances, or emotional and mental blocks. With personalized plans, advanced lab testing, and evidence-based holistic nutrition practices, we guide you toward lasting health and wholeness. Awaken your healing potential with a team that listens, understands, and supports you wherever you are. Visit nextlevelhw.com to start your journey to feeling better today.
Did you know 10,000 baby boomers qualify for Medicare every day? Did you know that you'll start to get swamped with mail about Medicare 6 months before your 65th birthday? Did you also know it doesn't cost anything to use an insurance agent to help you navigate through all those offers? Hi, I'm Tracy Ferris with Blue Water Health Insurance. Let me help you understand all the offers you're receiving and find the plan that fits best for your situation. Call me today at 435-890-8155.
Getting around your home should be easy and safe. At RT Med Mobile, they provide wheelchairs, stair lifts, ramps, and electric lift chairs to help seniors maintain independence and comfort. Their friendly team offers free in-home consultations to find the perfect solution for you or your loved one. Locally owned and here to help, call 435-260-6171 today. RT Med Mobile, because your mobility matters.
Thanks, Mom. Thanks, Dad.
No problem, sweetie.
I can't believe you're able to fit everything in that little sedan.
Bye!
When they move out, you can move on to a house that fits your life. It's time to live in a space that fits your family.
Hi, this is Sid Roeder with Achievement Realty. Let me help you to find a home that suits your needs and is less to take care of. Save money or even make money on the sale of your current home. Call me today at 512-6406, then list it, sell it, and move on.
And welcome back to the Senior Moment Show. My name is Bryce Patton here with Sid Roeder, as well as our guest, Justin Wall from Wall Estate Solutions.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm so glad you're here. You've been telling us all about wills and all this other, oh my gosh, all the real estate stuff. But there's something you talked about that you mentioned that I think, unless you're diving into this, you don't hear a lot, which is probate.
Yeah.
Can you kind of walk through what probate is, what it's doing, and how we can avoid that if we can?
Sure. Yeah. So probate's the process of transferring assets that belong to somebody who has passed away. The issue that we run into is, we may know who the heirs are. It's usually pretty clear who's supposed to inherit a house or, a bank account or retirement funds or whatever the case may be. But if there's not something on the account or there's not something on the deed that says who the next owner is going to be, well, now that's stuck in limbo because there's nobody alive that owns the property that can give it to somebody else. And that's where we have to get the government involved. So that's what probate is all about. We go to the probate courts. We prepare a petition or an application to the judge to say, hey, we need somebody to be appointed as the personal representative of the estate. If there's a will, we need to say we need the will to be approved so that the personal representative can carry out the will's terms. And they go through a process where the judge either approves or has issues, and we have to get that cleared up. And at the end of the day, what we're trying to do is get somebody appointed that can sign that deed, that can take over those accounts, that can start making the transfers under the terms of the will. Okay, that's how probate starts. Then we have to deal with other parties to the transaction. So there's beneficiaries. Who are the beneficiaries in the will? If the will doesn't cover all of the assets, there might be beneficiaries that are not in the will. They're usually creditors. If you have an outstanding mortgage to pay, or if you have credit card debts or vehicle loans or personal loans or other things like that, well, they all have an interest in the estate of the decedent as well. And those need to be settled. Typically what we do is we'll send out notice to the creditors, notice to the beneficiaries, so everybody's aware of what's happening, and there's a process of getting the estate settled before we can actually turn around and start making distributions. Now in Utah, if we want to get a bar on when a creditor can come and make a claim against a probate estate, then we have to keep that creditor claims period open for at least 3 months. 3 months from when they get notice until after the 90 days has expired, right? And then at that point, if they haven't made a claim, then they don't get to make a claim, and that's why people like to do it, right? So at a minimum, if everything goes by the book, we're looking at a 4 to 5 month process. And more often than not, we'll have some hiccups. There might be a bank that's not cooperating, or we might have a creditor that's come and made a claim that we have to negotiate and settle out, and that might take a few extra months, just depending on the case. So very often these will go 6 months plus, a year plus, not uncommon at all. If there's a contest between beneficiaries, it can go a lot longer, especially if there's a lot on the table. It really just depends. But, if everything goes by the book, we're still looking at generally 4 to 5 months to get it all taken care of.
Wow. This brings me to another question. What's the longest one you've ever had, Justin?
Well, the longest one I've been involved in was a 5-year probate. And I got in on the tail end of that one, so I didn't have to be there the entire time. But it was this family that was going back and forth over personal property that was stored in the garage of the surviving spouse who is now remarried that said he owned it. There was like a grandfather clock and a bunch of other things that were really not crazy valuable, but they were important to the family. And it was a fight between the surviving spouse who was not the parent of these other children who were making the claim for the personal property that belonged to I think it was their mother in that case. So 5 years. I've seen them go as long as 7. I'm sure that there are cases out there that have gone a lot longer than that, but those are the ones that I've been involved with.
What usually causes that out? Just disagreements between parties?
Yeah, it's just people, they'll use the legal process to try to get, what they think they're entitled to. And sometimes those legal processes can take some time. If we're in litigation, we have to schedule, we give each other deadlines for how long we can conduct discovery and various things before trial. And then sometimes those deadlines get extended or delayed for whatever reason, just things like that. Sometimes there will be a mistrial and something else will have to happen before we can go back to trial. Just the back and forth and the negotiation. A lot of times it's good faith negotiations between the parties where they just say, hey, we just need a little more time. A combination of a lot of those different things is just kind of pile up over time, can make a really long extension of a probate case.
Got another question, because I know a lot of people that do have trusts and haven't looked at them in many, many years, and maybe the attorney that wrote it isn't even around anymore. Yeah. How do you deal with that? If somebody calls you, can you review somebody else's trust?
I do that routinely. When people call and they say, well, we have a trust and we want to make some updates. Okay, sometimes they know what those updates are. Sometimes they just want it reviewed. And getting it reviewed is a really good idea, right? The trust doesn't become invalid by process of time. So if they have a trust that's 20 years old, it's still going to govern their estate for the assets that have been funded into the trust, right? And 20 years ago, we were using different strategies than we're using today. So very well, it could need some updates. And then more often than not, when you get a trust like that that's a little bit older, I get a lot of people that come in that set it up when their kids were kids and now they're adults and they want the adults to be in charge instead of having, Uncle Jimmy, who's now got Alzheimer's and isn't going to serve as the trustee anymore. We have to make updates of that nature. So that's a conversation I have quite often.
With the trusts and different things, how does setting up your trust right alleviate problems or make a nicer path going forward?
Yeah, good question. So you first have to understand what a trust is, right? So we'll always set up a trust in lieu of giving something directly to somebody. So if I have my house and I say, well, I want my house to go to my kids, I can always sign that deed right now today and give it to assuming they're old enough, assuming the kids have that. But I don't want to do that because I'm still living in the house and we don't know what we're going to do in the next 50 years of our lives or however long it takes. So what we do is we say, well, we can put our house into a trust, right? So now the trust is the owner. And with most trusts, they're revocable. So what I say is I want to be the trustee. I want to be the beneficiary. I want full control over what happens with this house during my lifetime. And then in the trust, I want to say, I'm the trustee now, but when I die, so-and-so is going to be my trustee. Maybe it's a sibling, or maybe it's a child, or maybe it's a parent or a friend, or whoever it may be. Usually for older couples, it's kids. Usually for younger couples, it's siblings. It's a pretty common pattern. But what we're doing there is we're saying, the trustee has the legal right now to transfer that property, okay? Because it's in a trust, which means when I pass away, I don't own that property, so I don't have to go to probate. The trust owns that property. And as long as the trust has a trustee, then I don't have to take that to probate because my trustee can now sign that deed and carry out those transfers without having to go to the courts to ask permission for any judge.
That actually brings me to another thing that you had mentioned. You were saying most trusts are revocable.
Yep.
What happens when it's irrevocable?
Well, so when we set up a trust, we also get to set the terms of the trust. So revocable trust people will do in lieu of a will because it's convenient for estate planning purposes. But there are other reasons you might want to set up a trust. For example, asset protection is a really popular one. We got not too much time before the break, but just to give you a quick bite, we can take what we own and transfer it into trust that we don't technically own for asset protection purposes. So it can't be taken away from us in a bankruptcy, divorce, lawsuit, and we can get into that here in a few minutes.
That's perfect. Yeah, we're already coming up on our second break here. Again, let me quickly mention our sponsor, which is the Empowering Seniors Group. If you'd like to learn more about the Empowering Seniors Group, you can do so online at empoweringseniors.info or email us at empoweringseniorscv@gmail.com, and the CV stands for Cache Valley. We're going to take a short break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Hi, this is Bruce with Comfort Care. One of the ways we help loved ones stay in their home is by assisting with daily tasks. These may include bathing, meal preparation, medication reminders, and housekeeping. We even help with shopping, transportation, and errands. Most of all, we offer a trusted level of care. Let us help you live your best life possible with Comfort Care. This is Bruce, and you can call me at 754-7676. Comfort Care, 754-7676.
This is Scott with Cache Valley Pharmacy. Are you struggling to find affordable GLP-1 medications? Cache Valley Pharmacy has you covered. We're now compounding GLP-1s like semaglutide and tirzepatide personally formulated for you, and every batch is tested for quality and sterility. Have your prescriptions transferred today and let Cache Valley Pharmacy help you with your personalized weight loss journey. Cache Valley Pharmacy, keeping it local, online at cachevalleypharmacy.com.
Picture this. Your family's locked in court, fighting over your home and your assets because there was no plan. Don't let probate decide your future. I'm attorney Justin Wall with Wall Estate Solutions. Stay in control with wills, trusts, and smart planning that keeps your family out of court and your wishes protected. Get peace of mind today. Visit wallestate.law or call 435-294-0346. That's 435-294-0346. Your legacy, your plan.
Need a helping hand? The Bear River Association of Governments, also known as BRAG, is here for you.
They assist seniors with in-home services, provide utility bill relief through the HEAT program, and offer rental assistance to keep you housed.
Need help with tax prep? Their experts ensure you get the refund you deserve. And for veterans, they're here to connect you with the benefits you've earned.
BRAG is your local resource for a stronger today and a more secure future. Call today or visit brag.utah.gov.
At Maple Springs Senior Living in North Logan, we understand that entrusting the care of your loved one to someone else is a decision not taken lightly. That's why we go above and beyond to create a nurturing environment where your family becomes our family.
When I found Maple Springs, it was like a weight lifted off my shoulders. The staff here really cares, and Mom is thriving.
The activities and social events have brought so much joy to Dad's life. I can see a positive change every time I visit.
We know that your loved one's well-being is your top priority, and it's ours too. Learn more at maplesprings.living.com.
And welcome back to the Senior Moment Show. My name is Bryce Patton here with Sid Roeder, and we've been talking all things trusts and wills with Justin Wall from Wall Estate Solutions. Before the break, we were talking about asset protection and irrevocable trusts. You want to dive into that more?
Yeah. So when I get calls about trusts, most of the time what people are setting up are what we call revocable trusts. When people talk about their trust for their estate plan, that's usually what they're talking about. Now, revocable trusts don't do anything in terms of taxes, in terms of asset protection. It's just an alter ego of yourself, and the IRS is going to treat that as you. Your creditors are going to treat that as you. It really only makes sense to set that up for dispositive reasons, to avoid probate, to say who gets what to take the place of your will, right? So when we get into irrevocable trusts, we don't ever write a trust that's irrevocable unless we have a good reason to do so. So some of those reasons are, hey, if I can legally say I don't own this anymore, and then I get sued, or if I have to apply for Medicaid, there's certain provisions we include in the trust where we can point to that and say, I already gave this up in an irrevocable way, so I don't own it anymore. And therefore, if I do get sued, it can't be taken away from me any more than my neighbor's house could be taken away from me, right? It's asset protection. On the other hand, when it goes into a trust, like I said earlier, we always put assets into a trust in lieu of making an outright gift. So I could just give it directly to my kids and be done with that and not have to do the trust. But now it's not protected for my kids. And now my kids are the owners of that property, and I don't have any say on what they choose to do with it. So what we're doing with certain types of trusts is we take these assets, we put them in an irrevocable trust. They can't be taken away from us. The trust says they don't belong to the kids until we pass away. So they can't be taken away from the kids, and they can't be sold by the kids early until something happens to you. So we'll see that kind of a thing in a Medicaid context quite a bit when people set up what we call a Medicaid asset protection trust. They'll take their house and then some assets that they don't really need anymore other than just maybe to live in the house. We can take those and we can put them into this trust. And then if we give it 5 years, we can turn around and say, hey, we don't own this anymore. So therefore, we don't have what we need to pay for Medicaid, and we can qualify for Medicaid benefits. So that's a common way to do it. Another one to do is to say, well, we want to set up an irrevocable trust for our children when we pass away. So you can't do it for yourself, right? You can't just say, I'm going to put my money into my trust and still be in charge of it. But we can do that for other people because they're not the ones making up the rules. So one common thing that people will do is they'll say, well, I want to take my estate, divide it into 3 shares for my 3 kids. And instead of giving those kids those assets when I die, we give them a 1/3 share of this trust that's going to continue in an irrevocable way after we die. And then we say for your 1/3 share, child 1, you can be the trustee and you can be the beneficiary. And as long as you follow certain standards, then that can't be taken away from you, child, if you ever go through a bankruptcy or a divorce or a lawsuit. And so they have that available in a creditor protected package for the rest of their lives.
So I'm really curious about this split of things when it comes to real estate purposes. Yeah. So if you end up actually doing that and splitting the property in however many kids you have, and then what are some qualifiers? So if maybe let's just say there's a kid in distress and needs money, and it says, let's sell the house so I can get my share. How do you set up like buyouts and things like that?
Yeah, good question. So that's exactly what we do. We set up a buyout. We say, hey, if there's a child that needs a share of this house, at the end of the day, the trustee is the one that gets to decide how that's all going to be handled. But we leave the trustee the flexibility to do whatever they think is in the best interests of all the beneficiaries, right? So if we dictate in the trust and we say, hey, everybody gets a 1/3 share of the house, well, then the trustee has to follow the terms of the trust. If we say, hey, everybody gets a 1/3 share of what's in the trust, well, now we might have a child that might get a larger share of, investments, stocks and bonds, in lieu of getting a larger portion of the house, if that makes sense. If all of the kids don't want the house, except for maybe one, then we can have that child have an option to give them the first right of refusal for a fair market value. So they can purchase the house, and if they have to take out a mortgage, they can do that at an amount that's reduced by the amount of their share, so they can still get their share that way. But ultimately what I try to do when I write a trust is just leave it up to the trustee. We pick somebody that's going to talk to all the parties. It's going to be a good choice, and that makes sense in the family context. And then we give them the flexibility to decide what's best based on the circumstances that arise.
Does a trustee have to be someone that's, I guess, whoever's making the decision, do they have to be a beneficiary of that trust then?
No, not necessarily. So the trustee is the person who makes the decisions for the beneficiaries. In a lot of highly contentious cases, we're recommending professional trustees. They're kind of like bankers. Well, they'll just say, we'll take charge of this, we'll take a fee, and we'll make distributions to the beneficiaries. I use that a lot when we have a child with a substance abuse issue. We don't want to give them any outright distributions that would destroy their lives, but we also don't want to disinherit them because there's still a child in the family. Well, we need somebody else to manage that share for them. And if we have one of the kids do it, well, now that other kid is going to have a contentious relationship with that child that might need siblings later in their lives. So for me, a professional trustee is a good solution there, where we can just say, hey, we're going to hire this person who's going to he can be the bad guy because he's not part of the family, and we're not going to sit with him at Christmas and Thanksgiving. And then he can make decisions as to whether it's appropriate for you to receive a distribution at any given time, and we can do it that way. So it can be done professionally, or it can be done by other people.
Yeah, I just remembered something that I was working through in real estate where I realized you mentioned that trustee, if it's a professional one, gets some kind of fee of sorts. I just came across one where there was no fee built in at all, and it was a family member. It was a little bit sad.
Yeah, well, and a lot of professional trustees won't even take it if there's not a way for them to get paid, right? So we always include, in my trusts, we say the trustee gets fair and reasonable compensation, and then if it's a family member, we'll give them an option to opt out. And a lot of times siblings will do that just as a family service.
Just enough time to mention your phone number.
435-294-0346. That's 435-294-0346.
Perfect. It was great having you here again, Justin. Always learning a lot about those things. I think I could do a radio show every week just about that and still not know it all.
Happy to do it.
Well, this is the Senior Moment Show. We're at the end of our show. Tune in again next week.